Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the live studios here at Radha Lane. Welcome to all those out in cyberspace and all of those stalwarts here in our studio today. I went to the surgeon today and he unwrapped the thing and looked at it and did some twisting and turning and said that we're way ahead of the curve, that we're doing really well. So it was a successful operation, surgery, and he wants you back in 10 days, and it doesn't have to go into a cast. That's something special. So, and then we have physiotherapy after that, and then we should be good to go. We'll see. Hare Krishna. Pidam pidam vipadam natesham. Danger at every step in this material world, as they say. Okay, back into Srimad-Bhagavatam, our life and soul. Without this reading every night, I couldn't live. And from what I've heard, there's others. There are others who couldn't live without it. So here we are. Srila Sanatana Goswami's Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotra from the Sri Krishna Lila Stava, verses 412 through 416. Srila Sanatana Goswami's 107th out of 108 obeisances that he offered to the Krishna Lila of Vrindavan. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drik Prada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of light to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalindvandutitaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mandistadaga Mad Bhagya Madananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu, saduta dayin, adini chochatakara, hanamuncha gadachin mam, premna rit kandayospura. O bestower of saintly to thee, O bestower of saintliness, O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me, always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narada Muni is continuing to instruct Maharaj Yudhishthir and the family members who were grieving because of the disappearance, or at least the exit of Dhritarashtra and his wife Gandhari and Vidura. Canto 1, Chapter 14, Text 10, Srimad-Bhagavatam. Just see, O man with a tiger's strength, How many miseries due to celestial influences, earthly reactions, and bodily pains, all very dangerous in themselves, are foreboding danger in the near future by deluding our intelligence. Purport: material advancement of civilization means advancement of the reactions of the threefold miseries due to celestial influence, earthly reactions, and bodily or mental pains. By the celestial influence of the stars, there are many calamities like excessive heat, cold, rains, or no rains, and the after effects are famine, disease, and epidemic. The aggregate result is agony of the body and the mind. Man-made material science cannot do anything to counteract these threefold miseries. They are all punishments from the superior energy of Maya under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, our constant touch with the Lord by devotional service can give us relief without our being disturbed in the discharge of our human duties. The Asuras, however, who do not believe in the existence of God, make their own plans to counteract all these threefold miseries, and so they meet with failures every time. The Bhagavad Gita 7:14 clearly states that the reaction of material energy is never to be conquered because of the binding effects of the three modes. They can simply be overcome by one who surrenders fully in devotion unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Text 11. The left side of my body, my thighs, arms, and eyes are all quivering again and again. I am having heart palpitations due to fear. All this indicates undesirable happenings. So this is Maharaj Yudhishthira, actually, after Arjuna went to Dwarka to find out what Krishna's next plan of action was. Remember? And then he didn't come back for a long time. And now Maharaj Yudhishthira is seeing all these inauspicious signs. Purport: material existence is full of undesirables. Things we do not want are forced upon us by some superior energy, and we do not see that these undesirables are under the grip of the three modes of material nature. When a man's eyes, arms, and thighs all quiver constantly, one must know that something is going to happen which is undesirable. These undesirables are compared to a fire in a forest. No one goes into the forest to set fires, but fires automatically take place in the forest, creating inconceivable calamities for the living beings in the forest. Such a fire cannot be extinguished by any human efforts. The fire can be extinguished only by the mercy of the Lord, who sends clouds to pour water on the forest. Similarly, undesirable happenings in life cannot be checked by any number of plans. Such miseries can be removed only by the mercy of the Lord, who sends his bona fide representatives to enlighten human beings and thus save them from all calamities. Text 12. Just see, O Bhima, how the she-jackal cries at the rising sun and vomits fire, and how the dog barks at me fearlessly. Purport: these are some bad omens indicating something undesirable in the near future. Translation: O Bhimasena, tiger amongst men, now useful animals like cows are passing me on my left side, and lower animals like asses are circumambulating me. My horses appear to weep upon seeing me. Text 14. Just see, this pigeon is like a messenger of death. The shrieks of the owls and their rival crows make my heart tremble. It appears that they want to make a void of the whole universe. Text 15. Just see how the smoke encircles the sky. It appears that the earth and mountains are throbbing. Just hear the cloudless thunder and see the bolts from the blue. Text 16. The wind blows violently, blasting dust everywhere and creating darkness. Clouds are raining everywhere with bloody disasters. 17. The rays of the sun are declining, and the stars appear to be fighting among themselves. Confused living entities appear to be ablaze and weeping. 18. Rivers, tributaries, ponds, reservoirs, and the mind are all perturbed. Butter no longer ignites fire. What is this extraordinary time? What is going to happen? Text 19. The calves do not suck the teats of the cows, nor do the cows give milk. They are standing, crying, tears in their eyes, and the bulls take no pleasure in the pasturing grounds. Text 20. The deities seem to be crying in the temple, lamenting and perspiring. They seem about to leave. All the cities, villages, towns, gardens, mines, and hermitages are now devoid of beauty and bereft of all happiness. I do not know what sort of calamities are now awaiting us. Text 21. I think that all these earthly disturbances indicate some greater loss to the good fortune of the world. The world was fortunate to have been marked with the footprints of the lotus feet of the Lord. These signs indicate that this will no longer be. 22. O Brahmana Shonaka, while Maharaj Yudhishthira, observing the inauspicious signs of the earth on the earth at that time, was thus thinking to himself, Arjuna came back from the city of the Yadus, Dwarka. When he bowed at his feet, the king saw that his dejection was unprecedented. His head was down, and tears glided from his lotus eyes. Seeing Arjuna pale due to heartfelt anxieties, the king, remembering the indications of the sage Narada, questioned him in the midst of friends. 25. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, My dear brother, please tell me whether our friends and relatives such as Madhu, Bhoja, Dasharha, Arha, Satpata, Andaka, and the members of the Yadu family are all passing their days in happiness. 26. Is my respectable grandfather Surasena in a happy mood? And are my maternal uncle Vasudeva and his younger brothers all doing well? 27. His 7 wives, headed by Devaki, are all sisters. Are they and their sons and daughters-in-law all happy? 28, 29. Are Ugrasena, whose son was the mischievous Kamsa, and his younger brother still living? Are Ridhika and his son Kritavarma happy? Are Akrura, Jayanta, Gada, Sarana, and Shatrujit all happy? How is Balarama, the personality of Godhead and the protector of devotees? Purport. Ugrasena was situated in Hastinapura. The capital of the Pandavas was situated somewhere near present New Delhi in the kingdom of Ugrasena, and the kingdom of Ugrasena was situated in Mathura. While returning to Delhi from Dwarka, Arjuna must have visited the city of Mathura, and therefore the inquiry about the king of Mathura is valid. Amongst various names of the relatives, the name of Rama, or Balarama, eldest brother of Lord Krishna, is added with the words, the personality of Godhead, because Lord Balaram is the immediate expansion of Vishnu Tattva as Prakash, Vigraha, of Lord Krishna. The Supreme Lord, although one without a second, expands himself as many other living beings, The Vishnu Tattva living beings are the expansions of the Supreme Lord, and all of them are qualitatively and quantitatively equal with the Lord. But the expansions of the Jiva Shakti, the category of the ordinary living beings, are not at all equal with the Lord. One who considers the Jiva Shakti and the Vishnu Tattva to be on an equal level is considered a condemned soul of the world. Sri Rama, or Balarama, is the protector of the devotees of the Lord. Baladeva acts as the spiritual master of all devotees, and by his causeless mercy, the fallen souls are delivered. Sri Baladev appeared as Sri Nityananda Prabhu during the advent of Lord Chaitanya, and the great Lord Nityananda Prabhu exhibited his causeless mercy by delivering a pair of extremely fallen souls namely Jagai and Madai. Therefore, it is particularly mentioned here that Balarama is the protector of the devotees of the Lord. By his divine grace only, one can approach the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. And thus, Sri Balarama is the mercy incarnation of the Lord, manifested as the spiritual master, the savior of the pure devotees. Text 30. How is Pradyumna, the great general of the Vrishni family? Is he happy? And is Aniruddha, the plenary expansion of the personality of Godhead, faring well? Purport. Pradyumna and Aniruddha are also expansions of the personality of Godhead, and thus they are also Vishnu Tattva. At Dwarka, Lord Vasudeva is engaged in his transcendental pastimes along with his plenary expansions, namely Sankarsana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, and therefore each and every one of them can be addressed as the personality of Godhead, as it is mentioned in connection with the name Aniruddha. Text 31. Are all the chieftain sons of Lord Krishna, such as Sushena, Chaudeshna, Samba, the son of Jambavati, and Rishabha, along with their sons, all doing well? Purport. As already mentioned, Lord Krishna married 16,108 wives, and each of them had 10 sons. Therefore, 16,000 times 108 times 10 equals 161,080 sons. They all grew up, and each of them had as many sons as their father, and the whole aggregate was something nearly 1,610,800 family members of the Lord. The Lord is the Father of all living beings, who are countless in number. Therefore, only a few of them are called to associate with the Lord in his transcendental pastimes as the Lord of Dwarka on this earth. It is not astonishing that the Lord maintained a visible family consisting of so many members. It is better to refrain from comparing the Lord's position to ours, and it becomes a simple truth as soon as we understand at least a partial calculation of the Lord's transcendental position. King Yudhishthira, while inquiring about the Lord's sons and grandsons at Dwarka, mentioned only the chieftains among them, for it was impossible for them to remember all the names of the Lord's family members. Text 32-33. Also Shrutadeva, Uddhava, and others, Nanda, Sunanda, and other leaders of liberated souls who were constant companions of the Lord, are protected by Lord Balaram and Krishna. Are they all doing well in their respective functions? Do they, who are all eternally bound in friendship with us, remember our welfare? Purport. The constant companions of Lord Krishna, such as Uddhava, are all liberated souls, and they descended, along with Lord Krishna, to this material world to fulfill the mission of the Lord. The Pandavas are also liberated souls who descended along with Lord Krishna to serve him in his transcendental pastimes on this earth. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 4:8, the Lord and his eternal associates, who are also liberated souls like the Lord, come down to this earth at different intervals. The Lord remembers them all, but his associates, although liberated souls, forget due to their being tatashta shakti, or marginal potency of the Lord. That is the difference between the Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva. The Jiva Tattvas are infinitesimal, potential particles of the Lord, and therefore they require the protection of the Lord at all times. And to the eternal servitors of the Lord is pleased to give all protection at all times. Liberated souls never, therefore, think themselves as free as the Lord or as powerful as the Lord, but they always seek the protection of the Lord in all circumstances, both in the material world and in the spiritual world. This dependence of the liberated soul is constitutional, for the liberated souls are like sparks of a fire that are able to exhibit the glow of fire along with the fire, and not independently. Independently, the glow of the sparks are extinguished, although the quality of fire, or the glowing, is there. Thus those who give up the protection of the Lord and become so-called lords themselves out of spiritual ignorance come back again to this material world, even after prolonged tapasya of the severest type. That is the verdict of all Vedic literature. Text 34. Is Lord Krishna the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gives pleasure to the cows, the senses, and the brahmanas, who is very affectionate towards his devotees, enjoying the pious assembly at Dwarkapuri surrounded by his friends? Purport. Here in this particular verse, the Lord is described as Bhagavan, Govinda, Brahmanya, and Bhaktavatsala. He is Bhagavan Swayam, or the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, full with all opulences, all power, all knowledge, all beauty, all fame, and all renunciation. No one is equal to or greater than him. He is Govinda because he is the pleasure of the cows and the senses. Those who have purified their senses by the devotional service of the Lord can render unto him real service, and thereby derive transcendental pleasure out of such purified senses. Only the impure conditioned living being cannot derive any pleasure from the senses. But being illusioned by false pleasures of the senses, he becomes servant of the senses. Therefore, we need his protection for our own interest. The Lord is the protector of cows in the Brahminical culture. A society devoid of cow protection and Brahminical culture is not under the direct protection of the Lord, just as the prisoners in the jails are not under the protection of the king, but under the protection of a severe agent of the king. Without cow protection and cultivation of the Brahminical qualities in human society, at least for a section of the members of society, no human civilization can prosper at any length. By Brahminical culture, the development of the dormant qualities of goodness, namely truthfulness, equanimity, sense control, forbearance, simplicity, general knowledge, transcendental knowledge, and firm faith in the Vedic wisdom, one can become a Brahmana and thus see the Lord as he is. And after surpassing the Brahminical perfection, one has to become a devotee of the Lord, so that his loving affection in the form of proprietor, master, friend, love, a son, and lover can be transcendentally achieved. The stage of a devotee, which attracts the transcendental affection of the Lord, does not develop unless one has developed the qualities of a Brahmana, as above mentioned. The Lord is inclined to a Brahmana of quality and not of false prestige. Those who are less than a Brahmana by qualification cannot establish any relation with the Lord just as a fire cannot be kindled from the raw earth unless there is wood, although there is a relation between wood and the earth. Since the Lord is all perfect in himself, there could not be any question of his welfare. And Maharaj Yudhishthira refrained from asking this question. He simply inquired about his residential place, Dwarkapuri, where pious men assemble. The Lord stays only where pious men assemble and takes pleasure in their glorifying the supreme truth. Maharaj Yudhishthira was anxious to know about the pious men and their pious acts in the city of Dwarka. 35 and 36. The original personality of Godhead, the enjoyer, and Balarama, the primeval Lord Ananta, are staying in the ocean of the Yadu dynasty for the welfare, protection, and general progress of the entire universe. And the members of the Yadu dynasty, being protected by the arms of the Lord, are enjoying life like the residents of the spiritual sky. Purport. As we have discussed many times, the personality of Godhead Vishnu resides within each and every universe in two capacities, namely as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. The Kshirodakashayi Vishnu has his own planet on the northern top of the universe, and there is a great ocean of milk where the Lord resides on the bed of the Ananta incarnation of Baladeva. Thus Maharaj Yudhishthira has compared the Yadu dynasty to the ocean of milk and Sri Balaram to the Ananta where Lord Krishna resides. He has compared the citizens of Dwarka to the liberated inhabitants of the Vaikuntha Lokas. Beyond the material sky, further than we can see with our eyes, and beyond the sevenfold coverings of the universe, there is the causal ocean, in which all the universes are floating like footballs. And beyond the causal ocean, there is an unlimited span of spiritual sky, generally known as the effulgence of Brahman. Within this effulgence, there are innumerable spiritual planets, and they are known as the Vaikuntha planets. Each and every Vaikuntha planet is many, many times bigger than the biggest universe within the material world, and in each of them there are innumerable inhabitants who look exactly like Lord Vishnu. These inhabitants are known as the Mahapurushikas, or persons directly engaged in the service of the Lord. They are happy in those planets and are without any kind of misery, and they live perpetually in full youthfulness, enjoying life in full bliss and knowledge without fear of birth, death, old age, or disease, and without the influence of Kala, eternal time. Maharaj Yudhishthira has compared the inhabitants of Dwarka to the Mahapurushikas of Vaikuntha Loka because they are so happy with the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, there are many references to the Vaikuntha Lokas, and they are mentioned here as Madhama, or the kingdom of the Lord. Text 37. Simply by administering comforts at the lotus feet of the Lord, which is the most important of all services, the queens at Dwarka, headed by Satyabhama, induced the Lord to conquer the demigods. Thus the queens enjoy things which are prerogatives of the wives of the controller of thunderbolts. Purport. Satyabhama, one of the principal queens of Lord Sri Krishna at Dwarka, after killing Narakasura, Lord Krishna visited the palace of Narakasura accompanied by Satyabhama. He went to Indraloka also with Satyabhama, and she was received by Sachidevi, who introduced her to the mother of the demigods, Aditi. Aditi was very much pleased with Satyabhama, and she blessed her with the benediction of permanent youth, as long as Lord Krishna remained on the earth. Aditi also took her with her to show her the special prerogatives of the demigods and the heavenly planets. When Satyabhama saw the Parijata flower, she desired to have it in her palace at Dwarka. After that, she came back to Dwarka along with her husband and expressed her willingness to have the Parijata flower at her palace. Satyabhama's palace was especially bedecked with valuable jewels, and even in the hottest season of summer, the inside of the palace remained cool, as if air-conditioned. She decorated her palace with various flags, heralding the news of her great husband's presence there. Once, along with her husband, she met Draupadi, and she was anxious to be instructed by Draupadi in the ways and means of pleasing her husband. Draupadi was expert in this affair because she kept 5 husbands, the Pandavas, and all were very much pleased with her. On receipt of Draupadi's instructions, she was very much pleased and offered her good wishes in return to Dwarka. She was the daughter of Satyajit. After the departure of Lord Krishna, when Arjuna visited Dwarka, all the queens, including Satyabhama and Rukmini, lamented for the Lord with great feeling, and at the last stage of her life, she left for the forest to undergo severe penance. Satyabhama instigated her husband to get the Parijata flower from the heavenly planets, and the Lord got it, even by force, from the demigods, as a common husband secures things to please his wife. As already explained, the Lord had very little to do with so many wives to carry out their orders like an ordinary man, but because the queens accepted the high quality of devotional service, namely administering the Lord all comforts, the Lord played the part of a faithful and complete husband. No earthly creature can expect to have things from the heavenly kingdom, especially the Parijata flowers, which are simply to be used by the demigods. But due to their becoming the Lord's faithful wives, all of them enjoyed the special prerogatives of the great wives of the denizens of heaven. In other words, since the Lord is the proprietor of everything within his creation, it is not very astonishing for the queens of Dwarka to have any rare thing from any part of the universe. 38. The great heroes of the Yadu dynasty, being protected by the arms of Lord Sri Krishna, always remain fearless in every respect, and therefore their feet trample over the Sudharma assembly house, which the best demigods deserved, but which was taken away from them. Purport. Those who are directly servitors of the Lord are protected by the Lord from all fearfulness, and they also enjoy the best of things, even if they are forcibly accumulated. The Lord is equal in behavior to all living beings, but he is partial to his pure devotees, being very affectionate toward them. This city of Dwarka was flourishing, being enriched with the best of things in the material world. The state assembly house is constructed according to the dignity of the particular state. In the heavenly planets, the state assembly house called Sudharma was deserving of the dignity of the best of the demigods. Such an assembly house is never meant for any state on the globe because the human being on the earth is unable to construct it, however far a particular state may be materially advanced. But during the time of Lord Krishna's presence on the earth, the members of the Yadu family forcibly brought the celestial assembly house to earth and placed it at Dwarka. They were able to use such force because they were certain of the indulgence and protection of the Supreme Lord Krishna. In other words, the Lord is provided with all the best things in the universe by his pure devotees. Lord Krishna was provided with all kinds of comforts and facilities available within the universe by the members of the outer dynasty. And in return, such servitors of the Lord were protected and fearless. A forgetful, conditioned soul is fearful. But a liberated soul is never fearful, just as a small child, completely dependent on the mercy of his father, is never fearful of anyone. Fearfulness is a sort of illusion for the living being when he is in slumber and forgetting his eternal relation with the Lord. Since the living being is never to die by his constitution, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 2:20, then what is the cause of fearfulness? A person may be fearful of a tiger in a dream, but another man who is awake by his side sees no tiger there. The tiger is a myth for both of them, namely the person dreaming and the person awake, because actually there is no tiger, but the man forgetful of his awakened life is fearful, whereas the man who has not forgotten his position is not at all fearful. Thus the members of the outer dynasty were fully awake in their service to the Lord, and therefore there was no tiger for them to be afraid of at any time. Even if there were a real tiger, the Lord was there to protect them. Text 39. My brother Arjuna, please tell me whether your health is all right. You appear to have lost your bodily luster. Is this due to others disrespecting and neglecting you because of your long stay at Dwarka? Purport. From all angles of vision, the Maharaj inquired from Arjuna about the welfare of Dwarka, but he concluded at last that as long as Lord Sri Krishna himself was there, nothing inauspicious could happen. But at the same time, Arjuna appeared to be bereft of his bodily luster, and thus the king inquired of his personal welfare and asked so many vital questions. Text 40. Has someone addressed you with unfriendly words or threatened you? Could you not give charity to one who asked? Or could you not keep your promise to someone? Purport. A Kshatriya, or a rich man, is sometimes visited by persons who are in need of money. When they are asked for a donation, it is the duty of the possessor of wealth to give in charity, in consideration of the purpose, the person, time, place, and time. If a Kshatriya or a rich man fails to comply with this obligation, he must be very sorry for this discrepancy. Similarly, one should not fail to keep his promise to give in charity. These discrepancies are sometimes causes of despondency, and thus failing, a person becomes subjected to criticism, which might also be the cause of Arjuna's plight. Text 41. You are always the protector of the deserving living beings, such as brahmanas, children, cows, women, and the diseased. Could you not give them protection when they approached you for shelter? Purport. The brahmanas, who are always engaged in researching knowledge for the society's welfare work, both materially and spiritually, deserve the protection of the king in all respects. Similarly, the children of the state, the cow, the diseased person, the woman, and the old man specifically require the protection of the state or a Kshatriya king. If such living beings do not get protection by the Kshatriya or the royal order or by the state, it is certainly shameful for the Kshatriya or the state. If such things had actually happened to Arjuna, Maharaj Yudhishthira was anxious to know about these discrepancies. Text 42. Have you contacted a woman of impeachable character? Or have you not properly treated a deserving woman? Or have you been defeated on the way by someone who is inferior or equal to you? Purport. It appears from this verse that during the time of the Pandavas' free contact, free contact between man and woman was allowed in certain conditions only. The higher caste men, namely the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, could accept a woman of the Vaishya or Shudra community, but a man from the lower castes could not contact a woman of the higher caste. Even a Kshatriya could not contact a woman of the Brahmana caste. A wife of the wife of a Brahmana is considered to be one of the 7 mothers, namely one's own mother, the wife of the spiritual master or teacher, the wife of the Brahmana, the wife of a king, the cow, the nurse, and the earth. Such contact between men and women was known as Uttama and Adama. Contact of a Brahmana with a Kshatriya woman is Uttama, but the contact of a Kshatriya man with a Brahmana woman is Adama, and therefore condemned. A woman approaching a man for contact should never be refused, but at the same time, the discretion, as above mentioned, may also be considered. Bhima was protected by Hidimbi, from a community lower than the Shudras, and Yayati refused to marry the daughter of Shukracharya because of Shukracharya's being a Brahmana. Vyasadeva, a Brahmana, was called to beget Pandu and Dhritarashtra. Satyavati belonged to a family of fishermen, but Parashara, a great Brahmana, begot in her Vyasadeva. So there are so many examples of contacts with women, but in all cases, the contacts were not abominable, nor were the results of such contacts bad. Contact between men and women is natural, but that also must be carried out under regulated principles, so that social consideration may not be disturbed, social consecration may not be disturbed, or unwanted, worthless population be increased for the unrest of the world. It is abominable for a Kshatriya to be defeated by one who is inferior in strength or equal in strength. If one is defeated at all, he should be defeated by some superior power. Arjuna was defeated by Bhishmadeva, and Lord Krishna saved him from the danger. This was not an insult for Arjuna, because Bhishmadeva was far superior to Arjuna in all ways, namely age, respect, and strength. But Karna was equal to Arjuna, and therefore Arjuna was in crisis when fighting with Karna. It was felt by Arjuna, and therefore Karna was killed even by crooked means. Such are the engagements of the Kshatriyas, and Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired from his brother whether anything undesirable happened on the way home from Dwarka. Have you not taken care of old men and boys who deserve to dine with you? Have you left them and taken your meals alone? Have you committed some unpardonable mistake which is considered to be abominable? Purport. It is the duty of a householder to feed first of all the children, the old members of the family, the brahmanas, and the invalids. Besides that, an ideal householder is required to call for any unknown hungry man to come and dine before he himself goes to take his meals. He is required to call for such a hungry man thrice on the road. The neglect of this prescribed duty of a householder, especially in the matter of the old men and children, is unpardonable. Text 44. Or is it that you are feeling empty for all time because you might have lost your most intimate friend, Lord Krishna? Oh, my brother Arjuna, I can think of no other reason. for your becoming so dejected. Purport. All the inquisitiveness of Maharaj Yudhishthira about the world situation was already conjectured by Maharaj Yudhishthira on the basis of Lord Krishna's disappearance from the vision of the world. And this was now disclosed by him because of the acute dejection of Arjuna, which could not have been possible otherwise. So even though he was doubtful about it, he was obliged to inquire frankly from Arjuna on the basis of Sri Narada's indication. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 14th chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Disappearance of Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. So, Hare Krishna Nitya. We'll move on to chapter 15. The Pandavas retire timely. Text 1. Sutta Goswami said, Arjuna, the celebrated friend of Lord Krishna, was grief-stricken because of his strong feeling of separation from Krishna. Over and above all, Maharaj Yudhishthira's speculative inquiries. Purport. Being too much aggrieved, Arjuna practically became choked up, and therefore it was not possible for him to reply properly to the various speculative inquiries of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Text 2. Due to grief, Arjuna's mouth and lotus-like heart had dried up. Therefore his body lost all luster. Now, remembering the Supreme Lord, he could hardly utter a word in reply. Text 3. With great difficulty, he checked the tears of grief that smeared his eyes. He was very distressed because Lord Krishna was out of his sight, and he increasingly felt affection for him. 4. Remembering Lord Krishna and his well-wishes, benefactions, intimate familial relations, and his chariot driver, Arjuna, overwhelmed and breathing very heavily, began to speak. Purport. The living being, the supreme living being, Arjuna, is one of the typical pure devotees of the Lord, reciprocating in the fraternal friendship relationship. And the Lord's dealings with Arjuna are displays of friendship of the highest perfect order. He was not only a well-wisher of Arjuna, but actually a benefactor. And to make it still more perfect, the Lord tied him into a family relationship by arranging Subhadra's marriage with him. And above all, the Lord agreed to become a chariot driver of Arjuna in order to protect his friend from warfare risks. And the Lord became actually happy when he established the Pandavas to rule over the world. Arjuna remembered all these, one after another, and thus he became overwhelmed with such thoughts. Text 5. Arjuna said, O King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who treated me exactly like an intimate friend, has left me alone. Thus my astounding power, which astonished even the demigods, is no longer with me. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 10:41, the Lord says, anyone specifically powerful, and opulent in wealth, strength, beauty, knowledge, and all that is materially desirable, is to be considered but a product of an insignificant portion of the complete whole of my energy. No one, therefore, can be independently powerful in any measure without being empowered by the Lord. When the Lord descends on the earth, along with his eternal, ever-liberated associates, He not only displays the divine energy possessed by himself, but also empowers his associate devotees with the required energy to execute his mission of incarnation. It is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita 4:5 that the Lord and his eternal associates descend on the earth many times, but the Lord remembers all the different roles of incarnations, whereas the associates, by his supreme will, forget them. Similarly, the Lord takes away with him all his associates when he disappears from the earth. The power and energy which were bestowed upon Arjuna were required for fulfillment of the mission of the Lord. But when his mission was fulfilled, the emergency powers were withdrawn from Arjuna, because the astounding powers of Arjuna, which were astonishing even to the denizens of heaven, were no longer required. And they were not meant for going back home, back to Godhead. Very interesting point. If endowment of powers and withdrawal of powers by the Lord are possible even for a great devotee like Arjuna, or even the demigods in heaven, then what to speak of the ordinary living beings who are but figs compared to such great souls? The lesson is, therefore, that no one should be puffed up for his powers borrowed from the Lord. The sane man should rather feel obliged to the Lord for such benefactions, and must utilize such power for the service of the Lord. Such power can be withdrawn at any time by the Lord, so the best use of such power and opulence is to engage them in the service of the Lord. So we'll end our readings there for tonight and have some reflections. Any point that stuck out in your mind? Anything you'd like to discuss further in more detail?
Can you discuss in more detail this sentence? The power and energy which were bestowed upon Arjuna were required for fulfillment of the mission of the Lord. But when his mission was fulfilled, the emergency powers were withdrawn from Arjuna, because the astounding powers of Arjuna, which were astonishing even to the denizens of heaven, were no longer required, and they were not meant for going back home, back to God.
Well, there's two things. First thing is that Arjuna's an eternal servant of Krishna, so he's going to go and join Krishna in his next pastime in another universe. He's eternally following the Lord in his pastimes. That's the first thing. During that time, all of his powers aren't used or aren't needed for everything in his life. When they were first born, he didn't need the archery and the celestial weapons and all those things at that time, because time hadn't come for him to fight in order to fulfill the mission of the Lord. And then the other thing is, part of your question is that why shouldn't it be required for going back to Godhead? Because there's nobody to fight with there. Not like that. So Arjuna also has eternal form in the spiritual world. There's a planet where Arjuna and the Pandavas are eternally with Krishna, but they don't need those kinds of military powers in order to stay there, in order to go there or stay there. The pastimes of the Lord are unlimited, so all the variegatedness isn't there at all the times, just those that are needed to perform a particular mission at a particular time. Just like the Pandavas, at one point they had to be exiled, and then in 1 year, the last year, they had to be incognito. No one could. These people were so big. Everywhere they went, people would surround them and worship them, and everyone knew who they were. Right? They were so different than other. But at that time, when it wasn't needed, then Arjuna became a eunuch and taught girls dancing in the court of Maharaj Bharat. And Bhima became a cook. And Yudhishthira became, Bhima became, I don't remember all. One of them was the stable, took care of the stables. Yeah, Bhima was the cook. Sadeva, Yudhishthira was the, had something to do with the administration or something. Advisor, yeah, something like that. Like that. So they didn't need those powers then, because that wasn't the mission. So the powers given by the Lord to his pure devotees are taken and given away according to what's needed. But one thing that isn't taken away, and that's their love for him. So that's the ultimate power, because that's always needed for going back to Godhead.
Is this verse here talking about like climate change and the Brazil man of tiger 100 users, or you just list some influences, earthly reactions, and bodily pains, all very dangerous in themselves, foreboding danger in the near future by leading our tongues?
Well, yes, in the sense that those kinds of disturbances are caused from misbehavior. And the bigger the misbehavior and the more elevated the persons are who are performing the misbehavior, the bigger the influence is. The more disturbed the climate and the material comforts, of the world are. It's all there. It's all there in the Bhagavatam. Yes, Hannah.
What are the sevenfold coverings of the universe?
What she's asking, what the sevenfold coverings of the universe are. Well, the sevenfold coverings of the universe are the stock of the energies which are used to create the material world. Just like when a woman gives birth to a body, when a woman gives birth and creates a body in her body, all the ingredients are there within the body, but not all of them are used. So when the universal creation is done, all the elements and the quantity of elements are not all used.
Is that the Akashic Records?
No, that's Akashic Records is, the sound, the ether. The Akashic Records are actually the Vedas, actually. There are some sentimentalists that want to think that everything that we've thought is kept and recorded in an Akashic record. But it's not exactly like that. There is a record that's kept inside of our minds, inside of our subtle bodies. But it's not that everything that we've ever thought is, in some Akashic record out in the universe somewhere. They don't have to be. They're right there with our own minds. But the Vedas are the real Akashic records. Basuham apsakontiya prabhasmi sashichu pranavak sarvavedeshu shabdike purusham nishu. The shabdike, that's the eternal record of the history of the universe. That's why if someone is fully knowledgeable in the Vedas, they know all the Vedas, then they know past, present, and future. That's called Trikalagya. Because everything is there, recorded in the most esoteric verses of the Vedas. All the directive codes for how to reconstruct the universe, where everything is supposed to be, and what planets are supposed to be where, what personalities are supposed to be in those planets, what their duties are, how the history unfolds, the cycles. They're all contained within the Vedas. In other words, Brahma gets his knowledge how to recreate the universe from the Vedas. Something? Yes, Sarva.
You mentioned proper contact with women, improper contact.
Yes, he's mentioning proper contact with women and improper contact with women. Then?
In practical sense, in the modern world, a woman is not so devotional, but she marries a man who is a devotee. So she.
Well, the principle is there always. The principle is there always. That's why we want to marry with compatible people. We don't marry with compatible. That's what compatibility means. They're the same quality, or they have enough of the same, likes and the same similarities in nature that they'll be able to live together peacefully. Because obviously, men and women they're like different species, and if they're not compatible, then you can see what's going on in the world today. It's pretty clear. Yes.
Can a sannyasi be alone with his sister?
No.
Why?
Because the attraction between male and female is natural. It's built into the material energy, and it's a risk. Even if the person is above it, he won't do it in order to follow the examples for others, so that other sannyasis in the future won't come along and misuse it and cause more problems than there already are. There's enough problems already. There are exceptions. There are exceptions. Prabhupada was never with any of his relatives. Well, his sons sometime would come with him. Very seldom, though.
His sister cooks for him a lot.
He had a sister. But that was, when festivals were going on, there were hundreds of devotees around. It wasn't that they were just living together like a brother and sister. Not like that. Yes, Sarva.
You mentioned yesterday that Dhritarashtra meditated on the super soul.
It was mentioned yesterday that Dhritarashtra meditated on a super soul.
There's some danger in identifying oneself as a super soul.
Always. But in the case of Dhritarashtra, when it means that the soul merges into the effulgence of the super soul. It doesn't mean that the soul comes the super soul. When it talks about merging into Krishna can do anything. He can bring the soul back into his body and just, but his soul is eternal. He's created like that by Krishna. He's not created. The soul is not created, but the bodies of the souls in the material world are created.
So the soul simultaneously existed with the super soul? If the super soul is eternal.
The super soul is always existing with the
created.
That's right.
Will there always be a material?
Yes. Material energy is eternal also. But it's sometimes manifest and sometimes not manifest.
One last thing from me. Can you expand on this? But the man forgetful of his awakened life is fearful, whereas the man who has not forgotten his position is not at all fearful.
Man who has forgotten his position is fearful, and the man who has not forgotten his position is not fearful. The man who has not forgotten his position. I preached this to the ladies to the nurses in the hospital the other night, because they have a natural tendency to act kind of affectionately and to make you feel nice, And I said, there's no problem with me. I'm not my body, so I'm not fearful, because I know I'm not going to die. If you know that you're not, if you're actually realized, then you're not going to die. Then why should you be afraid? We're afraid because because we don't know what's going to happen after death.
So that's what it means when you go further and it says that the Lord is always there to protect them.
Yes.
It's only faithless people are fearful.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to stop now. Oh, yes, one more.
But when Arjuna returned from Dwarka,
When Arjuna returned from Dwarka,
he all the queens also left with Arjuna.
yes, Arjuna was given the duty to escort the queens back, those who were still living. Not all of them were living. Some of them just couldn't live, and they went back with Krishna. The ones that were coming from the material world, anyway, there were different categories. We don't have time to go into all those details. But when Arjuna was coming back, this is why he was lamenting to Yudhishthira that he lost all his power, because he was attacked by a bunch of cowherd boys, and he couldn't defeat them, even though he defeated demigods. But our acharyas comment that this was actually Krishna who appeared there to kidnap the queens, to bring Arjuna back down to earth.
And then his Gandhi, we cannot use the Gandhi.
No, couldn't use the Gandiv.
So he lost all his power.
Yes. Except his love of God. Didn't lose his love of God. Material power comes and goes. Spiritual power is eternal.
And because he cannot save all the queens, that's why he's more distressed.
Because he...
That's why he's more lamenting and distressed. He feel like... yeah, he cannot...
Yes, he couldn't do his
the
service
queens.
for Krishna, yes.
Yeah, and that's why he feel like he didn't
Yes.
help...
Yes, that's right. That's right. It says many times, and even in the Gita it says that when Arjuna felt compassion, it wasn't due to weakness of heart. Of course, in another sense it was, because Krishna put him into that weakness so that he could preach to him and he could become, and he could give him the rest of the world the Bhagavad Gita. But a couple of purports, Prabhupada says that the feelings of Arjuna were due to soft-heartedness, because a Vaishnava is soft-hearted, doesn't want to see people suffer. Okay, I'm going to stop here now. Hare Krishna. I need to take some rest. Hare Bol. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Yudhishthira ki jai. Jai. Hare Bol. All glories to Prabhupada.